So anyway, welcome to Hour 3 of Fox and Friends. Let's bring in our old buddy, Ari Fleischer, Fox News contributor, former White House press secretary under George Bush. He joins us live from his remote location. Ari, good morning to you.
Good morning.
All right, so we want to query you about something that Bill Melugin, our guy on the southern border, noticed, and that is, we've heard that the administration is only letting women and children and families in, but he saw a whole busload and then another busload of just young adult men from a government contracted bus going into that parking structure, and then they are released minutes later, hop in taxis, go to airports, and fly around the United States of America. Some of them can use their arrest warrants as ID at an airport. So a lot of people are going, you can do that? When is TSA gonna allow me to use my Sears card to get on a plane?
Yeah, I mean, if there's ever a consequence of going from Donald Trump to Joe Biden, this is it. And it's not good for the rule of law. It's not good for the people who are being smuggled into America, who have a terrible life, the tragedies, the sexual assaults, the abuse of people trying to get here. And for the Americans who are here, especially America's legal Hispanic community that sees people flooding across the border illegally, doing what they could have done but didn't because they wanted to follow our laws, and we welcome them here for that. I read that the number of people detained in December was approximately 180,000, a record. That is the size of the city of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. That is the size of the city of Chattanooga, Tennessee.
In 1 month.
This is what's happening under Joe Biden. He is letting in cities of people who are not supposed to be in America, coming here illegally, and just looking the other way. He wants it to happen.
Yeah, no other American gets to choose which laws they're going to obey, but it's different if you're an immigrant. Peter Ducey asked Jen Psaki about this. Listen.
Why is it that large numbers of single adult men are being released into the United States just hours after being apprehended at the southern border?
Well, I'm not sure the specifics of what you're referring to, Peter. What I can tell you in terms of what our policy is and how we're approaching the border is that we continue to be under Title 42. Migrants who cannot be expelled under Title 42 are placed into immigration proceedings, and one of those avenues could be placement in an alternative to detention program in the interior of the United States. Sometimes that means moving migrants to other parts of the United States to move to different detention facilities where they wait for next steps in the immigration process.
Ari, why are they being so secretive about it? Why don't they just tell us what they're doing? Bill Melugin has to get a tip from someone. He goes there and catches it on camera. We know about these secret flights in the middle of the night.
And people told Bill Melugin, where are you going? They said, I'm going to Miami, I'm going to Atlanta. They were free. They weren't going to a detention center in the inland. They made it. It's like a game of tag. They made it to America. They touched base. And now, Ali Oxagon, they're free. When I watched that exchange yesterday, it struck me that there are times when the White House, the pinnacle of information, gets perfect briefings about what's supposed to happen, totally divorced from what's really happening on the ground. I suspect Customs and Border Patrol agents would pull their hair out if they thought the White House thought this is how it was working. The reality on the ground is you make it to America, by and large, you have made it inside, you are free, and we don't know where you are. That's the reality. And it wasn't like that under Donald Trump. This is the rule of law. And I say this to you as somebody who is very pro-immigrant. I am a first-generation American. My mother is an immigrant to this great country. She came here legally, though, and that makes you love America. You cannot come here and make your first act an illegal one. And Joe Biden is allowing people to do that instead of doing what Donald Trump did and enforcing the border laws.
So that is a major story that no one else cares about. I don't understand it. I don't think Jen Psaki even understood what we had. I don't think she knew the report, wasn't expecting the report, but you're the expert in that area. I want to talk about crime and punishment in New York. If you look at all these studies, they ask people what they're concerned about. Right after inflation is crime. But it doesn't seem to be on the president's radar, especially what's happening in New York City. We get this new mayor. He has a new police chief, and they're going to crack down on crime or talk tough. But next thing you know, 5 cops have been shot, and the second one died from the Sunday shooting. He passed away from his injuries. His organs were actually used as donor organs for others. So he's still saving lives even after he passes away at the age of 27. But listen to this city council worker. And just to show you what we're up against in this city, in the same district in which this took place, Listen to this this tweet it goes like this. My deepest condolences to the families of Officer Rivera and Officer Mora. He's the second one who just passed away. And LaShawn McNeil. Lives lost due to broken public safety and mental health systems that spare nobody. Harlem stands with the families of the fallen and will not stop fighting for a safer world for all. So that means she probably passed that through her communications division, and she thinks putting the killer in the same sentence as the cops is okay.
Right. Right. This is the madness we're in now. This is what's happening when you abandon morality and that you try to find justifications for the killing of the police. There is no justification. There are times that we need to have a system that helps people who have had difficult upbringings. We want that. We're compassionate Americans. But when you kill a cop, the book needs to be thrown at you. End of sentence. That is simple. That is all. And for anybody in public life to express sympathy to a killer, I wish we had recalls. That person should be thrown out of office.
Lives are changed because of it. You know, one of them just got married. Brian had a great interview with a mom. It was a heart-wrenching interview with this mom down in Atlanta. She's the mother of the 6-month-old. Child was sitting in the back seat. The bullet goes through the trunk and hits her baby. She gets out of the car to check on him, and he is leaning over, and she sees the blood on his little clothes. Listen to a little portion of that interview.
Make better life choices, because the rest of the world cannot become your collateral damage because you had issues. Because I'm sorry to say, we've all had something we've had to deal with growing up, and the rest of the world has had to find a way to deal with our problems without gunfire. This child had the opportunity to be anything he wanted to be, as intelligent and as strong as he was. You don't know what you just took away. These are our future. These children are our future, and you're killing it.
And some of these liberal DAs and prosecutors are protecting the criminals and not the victims. That mom's life has changed forever, Ari.
Yeah, when the DAs started to change the rules and saying felonies are essentially misdemeanors, they let all of this start to happen. Criminals don't make a distinction between this type of misdemeanor, this type of felony, and that type of felony. They just say the door is flung open, the system is easy. Look, this is a huge moment for Republican candidates, independent candidates, different types of Democrats to go into America's major cities and say, we are the ones who are going to bring change. We're the ones who actually do care about your lives. We're here to protect you and to save lives. This is a huge moment. There is nothing that marries urban voters to the Democratic Party. That marriage can be broken. And this is one of the issues that affects it deeply, because it's safety. And that's the first thing people worry about when they wake up and go to bed. Such a moment for people, if they could care and go into urban areas and bring hope to people who desperately need it.
That's right, because when you look at the latest Fox News poll, Ari, the top two items are inflation, which, many analysts blame on all the money that's flooded into the system. Also, the fact that the administration had not planned for recovery from the pandemic. Now there are all sorts of supply chain issues. So that's number one. And then number two is crime. And so fast forward to November, when people think I'm not safe in my house and it costs $100 to fill up my truck, they think, you know what? This is not what I signed up for.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing that Joe Biden is bringing back the issues of the 70s, isn't it? When he first ran and got into office. I guess that's what you get when you have a president who's almost 80. He brings back the old days.
The good old days.
Yeah, those issues were gone under Donald Trump, weren't they? We didn't have to worry about inflation. We didn't really have to worry about crime. There was BLM, there was Antifa crime, but we didn't have to worry about these things in our lives. And they're back, they're prominent, and our system reflects this. Elections reflect this, and that's why the Democrats are in big trouble in November.
Right. I just got to add this. Kristen Sinema was censored for trying to keep the filibuster in place. That's the Democratic Party. Then you have a Democratic mayor who came out and said, we got to get rid of no cash bail. The city council, Democrats, said, no, we're not getting rid of no cash bail. We got to put these assailants, even if they're teenagers, in criminal court. The city council said, no, we're not doing that. It's a non-starter. So Democrats are at war with themselves right now. And for the country, I hope the Kristen Sinemas, the Joe Manchins, and in this situation, the Eric Adams win out.
But you know, Brian, Joe Biden should steal a page here from Bill Clinton. This is a perfect opportunity for Joe Biden to go after those liberal DAs. He needs to send that signal that he is a different kind of Democrat, Joe Biden. If he wants to make his way back, that is one of the best, smartest ways to do it. Why is he just winking? Jen Psaki wouldn't answer a question about these liberal DAs. Biden should target them and say they're wrong.
It's interesting you say that because it appears there's nothing on the schedule.
He didn't do it yesterday.
Right, I know. And Jen Psaki was asked about that, and she talks about the PDB. So for folks at home, that's the presidential daily briefing. Listen to what she says when they ask, why is his schedule always empty?
So the president has nothing on his schedule today aside from the PDB. Can you shed any light on how he's spending his day?
Well, let's see. This morning, I think he had some policy meetings, also a PDB meeting. He, later this afternoon, I think is doing some remarks review. There are some days that we spend some time doing internal meetings and discussions with policy experts, with policy leaders, and that's what's happening today. He would say he doesn't have nearly enough time of free time on his schedule because it is packed no matter whether people see him or not.
Ari, she's like, he's got, let me think.
What was there?
Right.
Oh, and then he's going to the ice cream place.
Right, yeah, he did go out and get ice cream. You saw that tweet. It says, if it's above freezing, then it's ice cream weather. What's your reaction?
Yeah, well, I counted 5 ums in her answer. So on the one hand, she's ducking, dodging. She knows they got caught. On the other hand, her answers are somewhat reasonable. There are days where presidents are like that. The problem for Joe Biden, though, is he's not vigorous and he's old. And so you add all that into the equation of where he has a day that's that light, and it's a legitimate worry how vigorous is Joe Biden.
Sure. And Ari, a brand new Gallup poll out shows the one thing, he may be old in your estimation, and in many.
By any.
However, look at this. He's likable. 60% say it. It would be more likable if we spell likable correctly. No, that's like, yeah, we're missing the E in that. Anyway, 60% say he's likable. 60% say he's intelligent. But here's the tell, the third one down. Can Joe Biden manage the government effectively? Only 4 in 10 say yes. And he's our leader for another 3 years.
He's hemorrhaging everywhere. And it's so interesting because the press was so easy on Joe Biden during the campaign. During the first 60 days of his office, a study came out showing he even got better press than Barack Obama during his first 60 days. Afghanistan broke the dam. And really, the press has been getting much tougher on Joe Biden since then. And across the board, it's as if the public was holding its breath, hoping Biden would do a good job when he was inaugurated. And then as things started to get bad, the public just walked away from Joe Biden. It just shows how weak he always was. He is a transitional figure. And let me tell you this, too. We should all stop with the myth that he's going to run for re-election. He has to put that myth out there because he doesn't want to automatically, this quickly, become a lame duck. None of us need to play along. He is not going to run again for re-election. It's going to be a wide open field on the Democrat side. He's transitional, and he's not even doing a good job at being transitional.
But you just did say, if they listen to you, there is a strategy to rehab him and help the country, but he seems unwilling to do it because the ice cream place was open. He could have been doing that yesterday. So, Ari, thanks so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Ari. Great to see you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. By the way,